Hello, welcome to my channel Nightlight Science Stories. Today, we step into the largest hot desert on Earth, the Sahara. Spanning over 9 million square kilometers, it is roughly the size of the entire United States. To the modern eye, it appears as an eternal ocean of sand, a place of extreme heat and silence where life struggles to survive. It seems timeless, unchanging, and empty. But this golden landscape is actually a massive illusion hiding a very different reality. Beneath these scorching dunes lies a secret history that defies imagination. We often think of the Sahara as a permanent wasteland, but geologically speaking, this desert is a newcomer. If we could rewind the clock just a few thousand years, this sand would vanish, replaced by a world of vibrant green. Today, we are going to peel back the layers of time to reveal the lush paradise that once thrived here and discover the cosmic forces that turned it into dust. This phenomenon is known to scientists as the African humid period. Between 15,000 and 5,000 years ago, North Africa was not a desert at all. It was a thriving savanna, teeming with life, much like the Serengeti of today. Heavy monsoon rains swept across the continent, turning arid basins into overflowing lakes and dry valleys into rushing rivers. The evidence for this green Sahara is not just theoretical. It is etched physically into the landscape itself. Satellite imagery has revealed ancient riverbeds, known as paleorivers, buried under meters of sand. These ghost rivers once connected the interior of the continent to the ocean, creating a vast network of waterways. Radar scans from space shuttles have allowed us to see through the dry surface, mapping drainage systems that rival the Amazon in scale. The Sahara was once a wet, breathing ecosystem that supported a density of life we can barely comprehend today. The crown jewel of this lost world was Lake Mega Chad. Today, Lake Chad is a fraction of its former self, shrinking every year. But at its peak, Mega Chad was larger than the Caspian Sea, covering over 360,000 square kilometers. It was a massive inland sea in the middle of Africa. Imagine standing on its shores 7,000 years ago. You would see waves crashing against a coastline that is now hundreds of miles deep into the dry desert. This mega lake acted as a climate stabilizer, creating a humid microclimate that allowed dense vegetation to flourish. It was deep enough to support massive populations of fish, hippos, and crocodiles. The sediments left behind by this ancient body of water are distinct and rich in nutrients. In fact, the dust blowing from the dried-up bed of Mega Chad today is still rich in fossilized algae, a ghostly reminder of the aquatic life that once ruled this region. We know humans lived here because they left us their diaries painted on stone. Deep in the Tassili Najjar Plateau in Algeria, thousands of rock paintings date back to this humid period. These are not drawings of camels or dunes. They depict elephants, rhinos, giraffes, and incredibly, scenes of people swimming and diving. These ancient artists were documenting their daily reality, a life surrounded by water and abundant game. The Cave of Swimmers in Egypt is perhaps the most famous example. It shows human figures floating horizontally with limbs bent, clearly swimming. For decades, these images baffled archaeologists who couldn't reconcile them with the arid surroundings. Now we know, these people weren't fantasizing. They were swimming in lakes that have since evaporated into thin air. These petroglyphs are a poignant time capsule of a vanished civilization. The fossil record provides even more concrete proof. In the middle of the Tenor Desert, in a place specifically called the Gedengu, or Place of Stones, paleontologists have found remains of giant prehistoric crocodiles. Known as Sarcosuchus, or supercroc, these beasts grew up to 12 meters long. Finding marine predators in one of the driest places on Earth is a stark paradox that highlights the dramatic climatic shift. Alongside crocodiles, researchers have unearthed fossils of large fish, clams, and amphibians. These creatures didn't just wander here. They lived and died in deep water systems. The Sahara was a biological corridor, allowing animals to migrate freely across North Africa. When the water dried up, many were trapped in shrinking pools, their bones eventually becoming part of the desert floor, waiting for us to uncover their story.
What caused this paradise to turn into a furnace? The answer lies not on Earth, but in the mechanics of our solar system. It is driven by orbital precession, a slow wobble in the Earth's axis that completes a cycle every 26,000 years. This wobble changes the angle at which sunlight hits the northern hemisphere. During the Green Sahara period, the tilt allowed for more direct solar radiation in the summer.
This increased heat over the land warmed the air, causing it to rise and pull in moist air from the Atlantic Ocean. This strengthened the African monsoon, pulling the rain belt northward over the Sahara. It was a celestial clockwork mechanism that essentially turned on the irrigation system for the continent. But as the bauble continued, the angle shifted, and the monsoons began to retreat south, cutting off the water supply. The transition from green to yellow was not a slow, gradual fade as previously thought. Recent studies suggest it happened with terrifying speed, perhaps in just a few centuries or even decades. This is known as a tipping point. As the rains decreased, the vegetation began to die. Plants hold soil and moisture. Without them, the ground reflected more sunlight, cooling the atmosphere and further suppressing rain. This positive feedback loop accelerated the desertification process. The land dried out, the soil turned to dust, and the wind began to carve the landscape. Ecosystems collapsed in a domino effect. Humans and animals were forced to migrate towards the only remaining water sources, such as the Nile Valley, inadvertently concentrating populations and helping to spark the rise of the Egyptian civilization. One of the most significant discoveries in recent years is the identification of the Tamanrasset River system. Hidden beneath the sands of Mauritania, this ancient river was once 500 kilometers long. If it were flowing today, it would be the 12th largest river drainage basin in the world. Radar technology has mapped its main channel and tributaries, proving it carried vast amounts of water to the Atlantic. The mouth of this ghost river has carved a massive underwater canyon off the coast of Africa, visible on sonar maps of the ocean floor. It is a river that exists now only in data and geology. The discovery of the Tamanrasset forces us to rewrite the geographical history of the region. It suggests that the Sahara was once a network of waterways that could have supported complex trade and travel long before recorded history. Going even further back in deep time, the Sahara was not just green, it was underwater. Wadi Al-Hitan in Egypt, the Valley of the Whales, contains hundreds of fossils of some of the earliest forms of whales, the Archaeoceti. These ancient whales had hind legs and were evolving from land mammals back to sea creatures. They swam here 40 million years ago when the Tethys Sea covered the region. While the Green Sahara is a relatively recent event, these whale fossils remind us that this land has undergone multiple radical transformations. From ocean floor to tropical forest to arid desert, the Sahara is a geological shapeshifter. Walking through Wadi Al-Hitan today is a surreal experience. Seeing the spine of a whale protruding from a sand dune is a jarring collision of two opposing worlds. So when you look at the Sahara, you are not looking at just sand. You are looking at the pulverized remains of a biological past. Much of the sand consists of eroded rock, but also shells, coral, and silt from these ancient lakes and oceans. The emptiness is full of ghosts. The very dust that blows into your eyes carries the DNA of a lost ecosystem. As we move deeper into the desert in the next part of our journey, we will encounter strange geological formations that look like they belong on Mars. We will investigate the mysterious Eye of the Sahara and ask whether it could be the location of the lost city of Atlantis. The geology here doesn't just hide biology. It might hide history's greatest secrets. Join me as we venture into the eye. In the vast emptiness of Mauritania, visible clearly only from space, lies a geological enigma, the Richat Structure, or the Eye of the Sahara. It is a massive circular formation, 40 kilometers across, resembling a giant blue bullseye staring up at the cosmos. Early astronauts used it as a landmark because it stood out so distinctly against the featureless desert. For decades, its origin was a matter of fierce debate. Initially, scientists thought it was an impact crater from a massive meteor strike. However, there is no evidence of the shock metamorphism usually found at impact sites. The current consensus is that it is a deeply eroded geological dome, formed by volcanic uplift and then worn down by wind and water over millions of years. But the sheer symmetry of the rings continues to fuel the imagination and attract mystery hunters. The most viral theory surrounding the eye is that it is the remains of the lost city of Atlantis. Plato described Atlantis as a city of concentric circles of water and land, with an opening to the sea to the south and mountains to the north. Proponents of this theory point out that the dimensions of the Richat structure align eerily well with Plato's measurements. They argue that when the Sahara was green and sea levels were higher, this could have been an island city. While mainstream geology rejects this, stating the structure is hundreds of millions of years old, far older than humans, the visual coincidence is undeniable. Is it possible that the legend of Atlantis was inspired by a memory of a civilization living around this unique formation? Whether myth or geology, the eye remains a place where the line between science and legend blurs. Geologically, the Richat is a textbook example of differential erosion. The rings are made of different types of rock, some harder, some softer. As the dome eroded, the softer rock wore away faster, creating the valleys, the water rings, while the harder rock remained as ridges, the land rings. It is a sculpture carved by the wind over eons. The colors we see from space blues, browns, and whites are the chemical signatures of these different rock layers. Even if it isn't Atlantis, the eye holds other secrets. Artifacts found in the area suggest that early humans lived here in large numbers, using the natural fortress of the ridges for protection. It was a hub of activity during the humid period, a natural oasis that would have attracted wildlife and hunters alike. Today, it stands as a silent monument to the power of natural forces. Moving east to Algeria, we enter a landscape that looks like another planet, Tassili Najjar. This is a forest of stone, a plateau of eroded sandstone towers and arches that create a labyrinth of canyons. It is one of the most important archaeological sites in the world. Hidden within these alien rock formations are over 15,000 prehistoric rock paintings and engravings. This open-air museum documents the complete climatic shift of the Sahara. The oldest paintings, dating back 10,000 years, show a land of plenty, huge herds of cattle, hunters with bows, and wild animals like hippos and elephants. The style is vibrant and full of movement. It is a visual record of a green Sahara society that thrived before the desert took over. As we move forward in time through the art, the story changes. The hippos and elephants disappear. They are replaced by horses and chariots. And finally, in the most recent layers, around 2,000 years ago, the camel appears. This artistic progression is a heartbreaking timeline of desertification. The people watched their world dry up, and they drew it happening. The chariot period paintings are particularly fascinating. They depict flying gallop chariots, suggesting contact with Mediterranean civilizations or a local technological revolution. Who were these people driving chariots through the drying savanna? This leads us to the story of the true masters of the desert, a civilization often overlooked by history books. Enter the Garamantes. For a long time, Roman historians dismissed them as simple nomadic raiders. But modern archaeology has revealed a shocking truth. The Garamantes were an advanced, urban civilization that built fortified cities in the middle of the Libyan desert. Their capital, Garama, was a bustling metropolis with a population of thousands, flourishing while the Sahara was already arid. How did they build a kingdom in a wasteland? They didn't just survive the desert, they engineered it. They possessed a technology that allowed them to access the water trapped deep underground, a resource left over from the wet periods. They were the first true lords of the Sahara, controlling vast trade networks. Their secret weapon was the Foggara. These were massive underground tunnels, kilometers long, dug by hand into the bedrock to tap into the aquifer at the base of the escarpment. Gravity allowed the water to flow down these tunnels to the surface, irrigating their fields without the need for pumps. It was a feat of engineering comparable to the Roman aqueducts. Using this fossil water, the Garamantes grew wheat, grapes, and figs in the desert. They had a complex social hierarchy and a powerful military. They used their surplus food to support a standing army and expand their influence. The Foggara system required immense labor to construct and maintain, often involving thousands of slaves, but it turned the sand into a garden. The Garamantes sat at the center of the trans-Saharan trade. They were the middlemen who connected the gold and ivory of sub-Saharan Africa with the oil and wine of the Roman Mediterranean. They traded salt, semi-precious stones, and slaves. The wealth generated from this trade allowed them to import luxury goods like Roman glass and fine pottery, shards of which are still found in the desert sand today. Salt was the white gold of the desert. Mined from dried-up ancient lakes, it was essential for preserving food in a world without refrigeration. The salt caravans were the lifeblood of the economy. The Garamantes proved that the desert was not a barrier, but a bridge if you knew how to navigate it and where the water was hidden. But their success had a built-in expiration date. The water they relied on was fossil water. It was not being replenished by rain. Over centuries of intense farming, the water table began to drop. The Foggara tunnels had to be dug deeper and longer, requiring more labor for less return. Eventually, the technology could no longer reach the water. By around 500 AD, the Garamantes civilization collapsed. Their cities were abandoned and the desert reclaimed the fields. It is a cautionary tale of resource depletion. They used up their battery and the lights went out. Today, the remains of their fortresses and the dry holes of the Foggaras are all that is left, ghostly reminders of a society that defied nature for 1,000 years. As the civilizations of the earth crumbled into dust, the desert remained under the watch of the stars. The Sahara is one of the best places on the planet to observe the cosmos. The lack of light pollution and the dry air create a window into the universe. But the relationship between the Sahara and the sky is more violent than just observation. The desert floor is scattered with evidence of cosmic impacts. From craters to strange glass formed by explosions, the Sahara bears the scars of celestial encounters. In the next part of our journey, we will investigate these cosmic scars. We will hold a piece of yellow glass that might be the result of a bomb from space, and learn why the Sahara is a treasure chest for meteorite hunters. Across the border between Egypt and Libya lies the Great Sand Sea, home to a treasure trove unlike any other. Here, scattered across the sand dunes, you can find strange, semi-transparent yellow-green glass fragments. This is Libyan desert glass, the purest natural silica glass found on Earth. When held up to the sun, it emits an eerie glow. For centuries, the Duans used this glass to make sharp tools, but its true value was recognized by the most powerful kings of the ancient world. The ancient Egyptians considered this glass to be of celestial origin. They carved it into scarabs and jewelry, believing it held protective powers for the afterlife. But for modern geologists, this beautiful material posed a difficult riddle. Glass requires sand to be heated to temperatures hotter than a volcano to melt. How did a sea of glass form in the middle of a barren desert? The answer lay hidden in the tomb of King Tutankhamun. When Howard Carter discovered the boy king's treasures, the centerpiece of his magnificent pectoral breastplate was a yellow scarab beetle. For years, experts thought it was chalcedony, a common quartz. But in 1998, advanced mineralogical testing proved it was actually Libyan desert glass. The king was wearing a piece of the desert's violent history over his heart. This discovery linked the geology of the Sahara directly to the mythology of the pharaohs. It suggests that ancient expeditions traveled deep into the land of the god to retrieve these stones. But the question remained, what natural force could turn thousands of square kilometers of sand into liquid glass? Leading theory today is terrifying. About 29 million years ago, a rocky asteroid or comet entered the Earth's atmosphere. It didn't slam into the ground. Instead, it likely exploded in mid-air due to intense friction and pressure, an event known as an airburst. The energy released was equivalent to thousands of atomic bombs. The fireball would have been hot enough to melt the sand on the ground instantly, without even touching it. Imagine a flash of light so intense it vaporized everything in its path, followed by a thermal wave that turned the dunes into a molten sea. As the liquid silica cooled, it solidified into the glass we find today. The absence of a clear impact crater supports this airburst theory. The Libyan desert glass is essentially frozen fire, a beautiful gemstone born from a cosmic catastrophe. The only other place on Earth where we find similar glass is at the Trinity nuclear test site in New Mexico. There, the heat from the first atomic bomb turned the desert sand into a green, radioactive glass called trinitite. Comparing the two gives us a chilling sense of scale. The atomic bomb created a small patch of glass. The Saharan event created a debris field covering thousands of kilometers. This glass is a silent witness to the violence of the cosmos. Chemical analysis reveals traces of iridium and other extraterrestrial elements trapped inside, confirming the meteoric origin. Holding a piece of Libyan desert glass is literally holding a moment of impact, a fusion of Earth and space that has survived for millions of years. While the glassmaker may have exploded in the air, other visitors hit the ground hard. The Sahara is pockmarked with craters. One of the largest and most controversial is the Kibira crater in Libya. Measuring 31 kilometers in diameter, it is so huge and eroded that, like the eye of the Sahara, it was missed by explorers on the ground and only identified through satellite imagery. The name Kibira comes from the Arabic word for large. If confirmed, it would be the source of the Libyan desert glass, contradicting the airburst theory. The debate continues, but it highlights a crucial fact. The Sahara's dry, stable surface is perfect for preserving scars. In wetter environments, rain and vegetation erase craters. Here, they remain open wounds, telling the story of Earth's bombardment. This preservation makes the Sahara a hunter's paradise. Meteorite hunters, that is. After Antarctica, the Sahara is the best place on Earth to find space rocks. The reason is contrast. If a dark black rock falls into a forest, it disappears. If it falls onto a bright yellow sand dune, it stands out like a beacon. Nomads have been finding these heavy stones for generations. Many of the meteorites in museums today come from this region. Some are pieces of the moon, blasted off by impacts. Others are from Mars. Inside these Martian meteorites, scientists look for trapped gases that match the Martian atmosphere, or even signs of ancient microbial life. The Sahara acts as a giant catcher's mitt, collecting samples from across the solar system and keeping them safe in its dry grip. But the greatest force shaping the Sahara today is not from space. It is the wind. The wind here is a sculptor armed with sand. It carves the bedrock into strange, streamlined shapes called yardangs. These rock formations look like the hulls of overturned ships, aligned perfectly with the prevailing wind direction. Walking among them feels like walking through a graveyard of giant abstract statues. The wind is also the voice of the desert. We mentioned the singing sands, but the wind itself creates a constant low-frequency roar as it passes through canyons and over dunes. It is an erosive power that can strip paint off a car and turn glass opaque. And when this wind gathers enough speed, it creates one of the most terrifying weather events on the planet. The haboob. The word comes from the Arabic for blasting. It is a wall of dust that can rise up to a kilometer high and span hundreds of kilometers across. It moves like a solid tsunami of earth. When a haboob hits, day turns instantly to night. The sun is blotted out and visibility drops to zero. It is a suffocating red darkness. Inside the storm, the static electricity is intense. The friction of billions of sand grains rubbing together creates lightning that flashes within the dust cloud. The temperature drops rapidly as the sun is blocked. For those caught in it, it is a reminder of nature's raw power. These storms transport millions of tons of nutrient-rich dust across the continent. But for the local inhabitants, they are the breath of the desert's fury. The Sahara is a land of extremes, not just in wind, but in temperature. We think of it as hot, and it is reaching over 50 degrees Celsius in the shade. But the lack of humidity means the air cannot hold heat. As soon as the sun sets, the temperature plummets, sometimes dropping near freezing. This 40 or 50 degree swing in a single day creates a phenomenon called thermal shock. Rocks expand in the heat and contract in the cold. Over time, this stress becomes too much. Stones literally explode. Travelers in the deep desert often report hearing loud cracks like gunshots at night. It is the sound of rock shattering from the cold. This mechanical weathering breaks mountains down into boulders, boulders into pebbles, and pebbles into the endless sand that defines the landscape. Yet, amidst this heat, wind, and cosmic violence, life persists. And the key to life is water. While the surface is bone dry, we are about to discover that the Sahara is essentially a roof over a hidden ocean. The illusion of emptiness applies to water as well. The greatest resource of the Sahara is not the oil of the gold, but the fossil water trapped beneath our feet. In the next part of our journey, we will tap into the Nubian sandstone aquifer. We will see how modern engineering is bringing this ancient water to the surface in projects so massive they can be seen from space. We will explore the hidden hydropolitics of the desert and how the ghosts of the green Sahara are feeding in the populations of today. Beneath the driest land on Earth lies one of the world's largest freshwater reserves. This is the Nubian sandstone aquifer system. Spanning over 2 million square kilometers across Libya, Egypt, Chad, and Sudan, it is a geological giant. But this is not ordinary groundwater. This is fossil water, trapped in the poorest sandstone rock between 20,000 and 5,000 years ago, when the Sahara was green and rainy. Think of it as a time capsule of liquid. The water you drink from a well here fell as rain on a savanna where prehistoric humans hunted. It has been waiting in the dark for millennia. The aquifer is estimated to contain 150,000 cubic kilometers of groundwater. To put that in perspective, if you could pump it all to the surface, it would cover the entire area of the Sahara in a layer of water nearly 15 meters deep. In the late 20th century, Libya embarked on the largest irrigation project in the history of mankind. To tap into this resource, the Great Man-Made River, it consists of a vast network of underground pipes, enormous concrete cylinders 4 meters in diameter, stretching for 4,000 kilometers across the desert. It is often called the eighth wonder of the world by those who built it. The goal was simple but ambitious: to turn the desert green again. Massive well fields in the deep desert pump millions of cubic meters of water daily, transporting it north to the coastal cities of Tripoli and Benghazi. It is an engineering marvel that defies the climate. Water that fell in the Stone Age is now filling swimming pools and watering wheat fields in the 21st century. The most striking visual proof of this project lies in the Kufra Basin. From space, you see strange, perfect green circles scattered across the yellow sand. These are center pivot irrigation fields, each 1 kilometer in diameter, fed by the fossil water. It looks like alien geometry. Here, in the middle of nowhere, crops flourish in defiance of the surrounding wasteland. But there is a catch. This is a mining operation, not a sustainable cycle. Since the rain no longer falls, the aquifer is not being replenished. Every drop pumped out is gone forever. It is a race against time. The water level is dropping, and the quality is degrading as salty water intrudes. It raises a profound ethical question. Do we have the right to drain the savings account of the earth for short-term survival? Scientists estimate the aquifer could last for another century or two at current extraction rate, but it is finite. As the water table drops, the cost of pumping rises. It is a stark reminder of the value of water. In the Sahara, water is not just a commodity. It is life itself, borrowed from the past. The blue gold beneath the sands is as precious and as conflict-prone as the oil that lies nearby. While the water flows silently underground, the surface of the desert has its own sound. We are moving from the depths to the dunes to investigate a phenomenon that has terrified travelers for centuries. The Sahara is not a silent place. Under the right conditions, the dunes themselves begin to sing. Marco Polo described it as the sounds of battle drums and instruments filling the air. This is the phenomenon of singing sands or booming dunes. In specific locations, when sand avalanches, it emits a low-frequency hum that can be as loud as a low-flying plane, up to 105 decibels. It is a deep, resonating drone that vibrates through your entire body. It feels supernatural, as if the desert is groaning. For a long time, legends said it was the voices of jinns or spirits trapped in the sand. But physics offers an equally fascinating explanation. It requires a perfect storm of conditions. The sand grains must be round and polished. They must contain silica, and the humidity must be extremely low. When these specific grains slide against each other, friction creates vibrations. Unlike normal sand, which absorbs sound, these polished grains synchronize their vibrations, locking into a frequency. The entire dune acts like a massive speaker cone, amplifying the sound note. It is literally a musical instrument made of millions of tons of rock. Scientists have even managed to recreate these sounds in labs, proving that different dunes sing in different keys depending on the size of the grain. It is a beautiful example of nature's acoustic engineering. The desert is broadcasting a song that tells us about the microscopic structure of its landscape. Not all water is buried deep underground. Hidden in the Ennedi Plateau of Chad is one of the most spectacular oases on Earth, the Gulta d'Arche. A gulta is a pocket of water trapped in a rock canyon. Towering sandstone cliffs protect this pool from the sun, preventing evaporation. The water is black, rich with the dung of thousands of camels that are brought here daily to drink. The sound here is different. It is the roaring of camels and the echo of their hooves. It feels like a scene from the Bible, unchanged for millennia. But look closely at the water. Swimming among the camel legs are creatures that shouldn't be there. This gulta is home to a relic population of the West African crocodile. These are the last survivors of the Green Sahara. When the rivers dried up 5,000 years ago, these crocodiles didn't migrate. They got trapped. They have survived here, isolated in this tiny canyon pool, dwarfed varieties of their Nile cousins. They are living fossils, clinging to existence in a shrinking puddle, feeding on fish and algae fertilized by the visiting camels. Their existence is a testament to the resilience of life. They are a direct biological link to the time when this entire region was a swamp, but their future is precarious. One severe drought could wipe them out. They are prisoners of the climate, waiting for a rain that may never return in their lifetime. The animals that roam the open desert are even more adapted. The desert monitor, the fennec fox, and the addax antelope have evolved biological hacks to survive without water for months. They get moisture from their food or have kidneys supercharged to retain water. They live on the razor's edge of survival, active mostly at night to avoid the killing sun. The Sahara forces evolution to be creative, but as we will see, the influence of this desert extends far beyond its borders. The dust from this desolate place travels thousands of miles to feed the lushest place on Earth. It is a connection so strange it sounds made up. The desert feeds the rainforest. In the next part of our journey, we will follow the wind. We will travel from the Bodélé depression, the dustiest place on Earth, across the Atlantic Ocean to the Amazon basin. We will discover how the dead microorganisms of an ancient Saharan lake are the fertilizer for the lungs of our planet. We will also look at the human element, the Tuareg nomads, the blue people who navigate this ocean of sand using the stars. The Sahara is not an island. It is a global engine that drives weather, biology, and culture across continents. Join me as we trace the invisible bridge between the sand and the jungle. We begin in Chad, at the Bodélé Depression. This was once a massive ancient lake called Mega Chad. Today, it is a dry, white wasteland, but this white dust is special. It is composed of the crushed shells of microscopic diatoms that lived in the lake millions of years ago. It is nutrient-rich rock flour. When the strong winds funnel through the mountains, they scour this depression, lifting 700,000 tons of this dust into the atmosphere every single day during the windy season. It creates a ghostly white plume that can be seen clearly from satellites, a river of nutrients taking flight. This dust embarks on a 3,000-mile journey across the Atlantic Ocean. It is the largest airborne transfer of matter on the planet. To the sailors below, it creates a hazy reddish sky. But from above, it looks like an umbilical cord connecting two continents. The desert is sending a care package to the jungle. NASA's satellites estimate that about 27 million tons of this dust settle in the Amazon basin every year. This is not accidental pollution. It is a vital delivery system. The soil of the Amazon rainforest is actually surprisingly poor, washed away by constant heavy rains. The Saharan dust is rich in phosphorus, a crucial nutrient for plant growth. The amount of phosphorus arriving from the desert almost perfectly matches the amount washed away by the Amazon rains. Without this dusty kiss from the dead lake in Africa, the lush lungs of our planet would starve and wither. It is a profound realization of interconnectedness. The driest place on Earth feeds the wettest. The dead diatoms of an ancient African lake become the DNA of the South American jungle. The Earth is a single breathing organism where no system exists in isolation. While the dust travels above, humans navigate the sands below. Meet the Tuareg, the lords of the desert. For over 1,000 years, they have called this hostile wasteland home. They are known as the Blue People because the indigo dye from their traditional tagelmust veils stains their skin a dark blue. In a land without maps, GPS for centuries, they navigated by the stars and the shape of the dunes. Their culture is unique. Unlike many neighbors, it is often the men who veil their faces while women do not. They are the masters of the trade routes that once moved gold, salt, and knowledge. The wealth of the Sahara was not just gold, it was salt. In the scorching heat, salt is necessary for survival. Ancient mines like Taudeni are still worked by hand today. These caravans of camels carrying slabs of salt travel hundreds of miles in conditions that would kill an unprepared traveler in hours. It is a lifestyle of extreme discipline and minimalism. To survive here, you must respect the silence. The Tuareg say, God created water to cleanse the body, and the desert to cleanse the soul. It is a place where unnecessary things are stripped away, leaving only the essential. Moving west to Mauritania, we encounter the Sahara's greatest mystery, the Richat Structure, also known as the Eye of the Sahara. It is a massive circular geologic feature, 40 kilometers across, resembling a giant bullseye. It is so large that it was used as a landmark by early astronauts. For decades, scientists thought it was a meteorite impact crater. But there is no shocked quartz, the signature of an impact. Today, geologists believe it is a deeply eroded geologic dome, an uplift of rock that was worn down layer by layer. But the internet has a different, more controversial theory. Could this be the lost city of Atlantis? According to Plato, Atlantis was composed of concentric rings of water and land. The measurements he gave align shockingly well with the dimensions of the Richat Structure. He described mountains to the north and a plain to the south, exactly as found here. While mainstream archaeology rejects this, implying Atlantis was fictional or in the Mediterranean, the visual similarity is uncanny. Was this once a lush city when the Sahara was green, destroyed, and buried by the shifting climate? It remains one of the desert's most compelling whispers. Whether Atlantis is real or not, the power of the desert to swallow civilizations is undeniable. The Sahara is not static. It is alive and hungry. It is expanding. Due to climate change and poor land management, the desert is growing southwards, swallowing arable land in the Sahara region. Villages are being buried. This process, desertification, forces millions to migrate. It is a slow-motion natural disaster. But humanity is fighting back with one of the most ambitious biological engineering projects in history, the Great Green Wall. The idea is to plant a wall of trees 8,000 kilometers long and 15 kilometers wide across the entire width of Africa. It is a living barrier designed to hold back the sands. Led by the African Union, it involves over 20 countries. It is not just about planting trees. It's about restoring a future. If completed, it will be the largest living structure on Earth, 3 times the size of the Great Barrier Reef. It is a battle between the encroaching yellow death and the resilience of green life. Early results show microclimates returning, rain falling again, and hope sprouting in the dry earth. The trees chosen, like the acacia, are warriors. They can survive with minimal water, their roots digging deep into the memory of the wet Sahara. This project reminds us that while we cannot control the climate fully, we can heal the scars we have made. We can ally with nature to push back the void. As we near the end of our journey through the Sahara, we realize it is not just a place of death. It is a place of extremes, extreme heat, extreme beauty, and extreme history. It holds the records of our past and the warnings for our future. It is the ultimate teacher of adaptation. The Sahara is not just a relic of the past. It is a powerhouse for the future. The amount of solar energy striking the desert surface is staggering. In just 6 hours, the Sahara receives more energy from the sun than the entire human population consumes in a year. It is a battery waiting to be plugged in. Projects like Desert Tech have proposed covering a small fraction of this wasteland with solar panels. Theoretically, a square patch of desert 300 kilometers wide could power the entire world. The blistering heat that kills could one day light up our cities, turning the yellow dragon into a savior. But the heat also plays tricks on the mind. We cannot talk about the desert without the Fata Morgana. This complex mirage, caused by layers of air at different temperatures bending light rays, can make distant cliffs look like floating castles or dry sand look like a shimmering lake. For centuries, travelers have died chasing these illusions. It is physics masquerading as magic. The desert bends reality, teaching us that what we see is not always what is there. It is a land where the horizon itself is a liar, testing the sanity of those who dare to cross it. Life here exists on the edge of thermodynamics. Meet the Saharan silver ant. It ventures out at midday when temperatures hit 50 degrees Celsius, a time when lizard predators must hide or die. Its body is covered in unique triangular hairs that reflect light like a mirror, giving it a metallic suit of armor. This is extreme evolution. By occupying a time slot that is lethal to everyone else, they live safely. But they have only 10 minutes before they burn up. Their lives are a high-speed race against the sun, a frantic dance of survival played out on burning coals. The Sahara is also our practice ground for the stars. The geology and extreme conditions here are the closest analog on Earth to the surface of Mars. Scientists use this desert to test rovers, spacesuits, and survival psychology. To understand the red planet, we must first master the yellow one. If we ever terraform Mars, the lessons learned from the green Sahara's history will be our guide. We know a planet can change its face completely. If Earth turned a jungle into a desert, perhaps we can turn a desert planet into a garden. The past of Earth is the future of Mars. Will the green Sahara ever return? The answer is written in the stars. The Earth's axis wobbles like a spinning top in a 26,000-year cycle called precession. This wobble changes where the monsoon rains fall. The desert is not permanent. It is a phase. Scientists predict that in about 15,000 years, the cycle will shift again. The rains will move north, the aquifers will refill, and the dunes will once again be carpeted in grass. The Sahara is sleeping, waiting for the cosmic clock to strike the hour of its awakening. Until then, it remains a place of profound silence. This silence is not empty, it is full of presence. The Desert Fathers, ancient monks, retreated here not to escape, but to find clarity. In a world full of noise and digital distraction, the Sahara offers the ultimate detox for the human soul. Under the clearest night skies on Earth, where the Milky Way casts the shadow, you feel your true size. You are a speck of dust on a rock floating in the void. This is not frightening. It is liberating. The desert strips away the ego, leaving only the essential self. The desert teaches us about impermanence. A dune is never the same twice. It moves, reshapes, and flows like a slow-motion ocean. Our footprints are erased in minutes. It is a reminder that nature is the ultimate artist, constantly destroying and creating, indifferent to our desire for permanence. We build our cities and empires, but sand conquers all in the end. Yet in this harshness, there is a terrible beauty. The purity of the lines, the contrast of shadow and light, the sheer scale of the horizon, it commands respect and awe in a way a forest never could. We have traveled from the ancient Whale Valley, where sea monsters swam, through the lost rivers and green savannas of the Stone Age, to the drying aquifers and the singing dunes of today. We have seen how this desert feeds the Amazon and challenges our future engineering. The Sahara is more than sand. It is a history book, a climate warning, a biological marvel, and a spiritual mirror. It is a paradox, a killer that sustains life, a barren land that hides vast riches, a place of ancient death that holds the keys to our future survival. As the sun sets on our journey, painting the sky in violets and oranges, we leave the great desert behind. But we carry its lesson with us. Everything changes. The lush becomes dry, the dry becomes lush. Life is resilient, finding a way through the cracks of the impossible. Whether you are a microscopic ant running on silver legs, or a civilization trying to plant a wall of trees, the drive to survive is universal. The Sahara is not an enemy. It is a strict teacher, reminding us of the fragility and preciousness of water, of green, of life. Thank you for walking these shifting sands with me. If this story of the Sahara expanded your horizon, please subscribe to Nightlight Science Stories. We explore the hidden wonders of our universe every day. Share this video to spread the knowledge. Until our next journey into the unknown, look up at the stars, stay curious, and appreciate the water in your glass. Sleep well, dream of ancient oceans, and let the silence of the night bring you peace. Good night.